Okay, welcome to the hands-on portion for group policy objects. Unlike previous hands-on where it was all mechanical, I'm going to give you an awful lot of philosophy in this one. So this one is practically no different than a traditional lecture because it has an awful lot of philosophy. So let's just start from the beginning. We're going to be needing to create some organizational units in order to apply policy. But what the heck is an organizational unit and why do I need them? So let's start from the beginning. So they're administrative units. Consider this. Let's say you had a group of computers over here that needed to have one piece of software installed, and another group of computers over here that had to have a different piece of software installed. That would be reason enough to break those into separate organizational units. You might want to have, for example, all PCs, not servers and domain controllers, but all PCs would like get Microsoft Office, but the engineers would get this software added. The accountants would get this software added, and the salespeople would get this software added. Well, that's a legitimate reason to break those guys up into organizational units. Okay, so I want to build some organizational units. Long before I get to making GPOs, I need to build my organizational units. So where do I do that? Where is organizational units? Is it down here in the group policy guy? No. It's back over here in Active Directory users and computers. Okay, so there's kind of a rule of thumb on where to build these guys or how many to have. And typically you would have a minimum of 4 top level organizational units. So I'm just going to click on my guy here, do a right click and say I want a new organizational unit. So I'm going to create one called servers. This is kind of a cool thing. If you try to delete something, it'll basically come back and say, Mother, may I? It's okay. I'm going to leave that alone. So now I have a thing called servers. And so I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to create me another group policy object. Organizational unit. And I'm going to call mine PCs. That kind of makes sense. So what's the difference between a server and a PC? Well, server is not a domain controller, but it's a server. So it could be a file server, it could be a web server, whatever. And then PCs, and then I need another one for the accounts that I'm going to be building. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and say new organizational unit, and I'm going to say accounts. Okay, so now I have 4, and you go, 4? Well, yeah, because the domain controller is one. See the little symbol there? So it built a domain controller. So I have 4 top level ones. I have the domain controller one that it built. I have the server one that I built, the PC one that I built, and the accounts that I built. Okay, so far so good? All right. Now, it's perfectly okay to have nested organizational units. For example, I want all PCs to have Microsoft Office, but I want the engineering PCs to have something different. So I'm going to click right here and say I want a new organizational unit. And I'm going to call this one engineering because they get something different. So what I've done now is I've got a nested organizational unit. When I apply policies like installing software to the top one, it goes to all of them. And then these get the special software. So I could probably create another one, right? I could probably create one for sales, something like that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I do a right click, and I'm going to go to new organizational unit, and we're going to do this one called sales. Cool. Boink. Okay, and maybe for the accounts, I need to have something like maybe the sales staff or the developers have a different requirement for their accounts. In other words, I want to grant them a little bit more permission, not on their PCs, but they get slightly better permissions. Like, for example, they need the ability to turn on and off a service. Okay, so I'm going to go here. So all accounts get something, and then I want to have a new one, a new organization called developers, because those guys get slightly different permissions. Okay, so this is all about what gets installed on the PCs, and this is all about the humans. Okay, kind of makes sense. Okay, so technically you could have an organizational unit that had both people and computers in it. That's not against the law. It's just that most people don't do it because it's just confusing. Okay, it's okay, but I wouldn't recommend it. Kind of makes sense? Okay, so here is a sticky question. When it comes to users, for example, I'm going to go here and build me a user. or let's say I want to grab, well, I don't have a, okay, I have to build one first. I'm not going to grab one of these guys. And I want to put him into one of these guys. So the question is, can a user appear in more than one organizational unit? Can a computer appear in more than one organizational unit? No. This is not like group membership where, you could have 15 groups that you're, a member of. This is you're only a member of one of these things. Okay, so that's why building the structure here is kind of sort of important. Okay? All right, so one more time. Why am I doing this? Well, I want to apply different software here, different software here. So this gets everyone gets Microsoft Office. These guys get Microsoft Office plus some CAD software. These guys get Microsoft Office plus some, content, some customer relations software. Everyone gets certain rights, but developers get more rights on top of what they got here. So it's all about organizing these things so that when you later apply a GPO, everything kind of sort of makes sense. Okay? Whew. Okay. So let's create a computer and put it in one of these guys. So right now, if I go to computers, I only have this one guy called Workstation. Okay? Now, let's just assume this workstation is one of the engineering ones. So one way of putting it into an organizational unit is quite literally just to drag and drop it. Just grab this guy and just drop him onto there. And say, hey, moving objects can prevent existing systems from working the way they were designed. Blah, 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 blah. You sure you want to do this? And I go, yeah. Okay, so now I have a workstation in my PC. I'm sorry, a PC into my organizational unit. Okay, cool. Now we're going to create some more computers. Now these are fake computers, right? They don't really exist, right? Workstation 1 is a real machine, right? Okay. So we're going to go in here and do some more, and it's called provisioning. When you go here and say I'd like to create a new computer, and I'm going to call mine, Workstation 2 because I can't think of a good thing. Okay, and the way this works from provisioning point of view is if I were to set this up right here where it says user or group, I could go in there and so once I've provisioned it, I could delegate the authority to another person to be able to add this machine to the domain without being a domain administrator. Isn't that pretty cool? So that's what this guy is about. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I got a Workstation 2, and hey, can I just go directly to this guy and say, okay, I want to do a right click and do something? Do I have to put it in the computers group before I do that? No, I don't think so. Okay, so I'm going to go here to PCs, and I'm going to put Workstation 2 in there. All right, cool. So now I have Workstation 2 in this guy, and then in engineering, I'm going to go ahead and put another one. So this time I'm just going to click on this guy and say New Computer. That way it'll just put it in the right spot. This is going to be Workstation 3. How's that for a really imaginative name? And then in sales, I'm going to put Workstation 4, right? New Computer. Okay, not very imaginative. All right, cool. So now I've got a bunch of things. So we built some fake PCs. They don't exist yet, but they've been kind of set up. So this is what the default container. Now in the real world, that default container for users and groups shouldn't have any users in it or computers in it. This is like the holding ground. When you build one, it automatically goes here. And so you want to change it. So now I'll admit, like the administrator user, I would, and guess, okay, I'm talking about real accounts like this, okay? So I'm going to grab my account guy. Hey, what's another way of doing it? Can I just do like a right click? It says add to group, disable, move. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to actually get away with trying to get this guy to a particular location. So I'm just going to grab my guy and move him to accounts, okay? So now I'm not a developer, but I am one of those guys. Okay, cool. So now my computers doesn't have anything in it, and my users doesn't have anything other than stuff that the machine brought for me. Okay, cool. Kind of sort of making sense. So I've kind of configured it the way I wanted it. So In accounts, we're going to create a John Doe. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to do a right click. I'm going to say a new task. I'm going to get me a new guy. And so this is John Doe. And I guess I'll just use the same old thing. I'm going to say John Doe. Okay, and I'm not going to mess with this because I'm just building these. Okay, thought I would go through this. CIS4376. Jeez. Okay, I was trying to get through that without having to do that. So I built me a John Doe, right? Cool. Kind of makes sense. All right. So in the developers, I'm going to create me a Sally Jones. So I'm going to go down to here and I'm going to create me a new user. And this is, dang, Sally Jones. And it's just going to be Sally Jones. And I'm going to have to put in a password. 76. Okay. Shoo. All right. So now I've created some accounts, and now the accounts are real, and the computer accounts are, I say fake. They're not fake. They're just, there's nothing at the other end of them. It's just a placeholder for it. Okay. Cool. All right. One more time. There shouldn't be anything left in computers, and should be anything left in users. Everything ought to be in an organizational unit somewhere. Okay. So some final thoughts. What are the use cases for what we just did? Because this, understanding why is critically important. So every PC gets Microsoft. So I'm going to create me a GPO and apply it here that's going to install Microsoft Office. And then I'm going to create a GPO here that installs some CAD software. Okay, you guys following? Okay. All right. So there are actually lots of ways you can install software. This is just one of the ways, okay? There's lots of third-party software, and there's lots of, system management server kind of a thing, add-ons you can get from Microsoft that allows you to deploy software. This is not the only technique, but it makes for a dang good example because you can wrap your head around, oh, okay, all PCs get Microsoft Office, but not all servers do not. Typically, like a web server or file server, I don't install Microsoft Office on those guys. And I'm never going to touch the domain controller guys. Leave it the heck alone. Okay. So now it's time to build a group policy object that goes to one of those guys. Okay, that kind of sort of makes sense. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna minimize this for just a minute. And when I'm doing work here, making a video, I always have to go in and go to the display settings and go to power and sleep and change this thing where it says when the screen goes out. Okay, I hate that because I have to remember to do it every single time. Okay, because every time I boot up my domain controller, there is a policy that comes along and sets that guy at 10 minutes, and I don't like that. So we're going to fix it. We're going to go in and create a group policy object that applies to domain controllers that fixes this guy. But before we do that, we need to do something that's kind of funky. Where the heck do you go to find that setting? I mean, I know it has something to do with display settings, but where? Oh my goodness, if I just fired up just a plain old group policy editor, okay? I'm going to do it from run just to show you. Well, okay, I'll go ahead and get the guy going because we're going to need this guy in just a minute. Okay. So I'm going to go down here to group policy management, and I want to do a right click and find something in here. Okay, so I'm going to go and look at one of these group policies that we already have. Okay, it's a group policy object that we already got. We got the screensaver one. How did we go and find that setting? I mean, that was quite a dance to go and find where the heck this guy is. I mean, it's kind of complicated going through and finding all that stuff. So luckily, Microsoft has made this a little easy because they gave us an Excel spreadsheet that explains where all this stuff is. And we'll do that right after the break.